Well, this is gonna be interesting. So, with people whose brains process things different ways, with different belief systems, and different kinds of people, you have books where there's very different opinions on the same book. And sometimes when a book is popular, that means there is a big divide. And I'm the type of person to when there's a big divide over a book, I'm like, well, I want to see for myself. So I've already somewhat tested it out by trying out some books di- with big divides. One being If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, which I ended up liking, though I don't recommend that book. And then also Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, which I did not really like. So, but now, today, for this video, it's going to be kind of a vlog, kind of talking about things where I have chosen two books that I just want to see what they're about. And two books, I was originally going to do three books, but the two books that I was considering for that third book seems like neither one would be a good idea. Heck, I don't even know if the books I picked out are a good idea. So, hmm. So the first book I am going to be reading for this video is one of the most famous Christian fiction books, and lots of people over the years have read it and loved it, but in recent years this book has gotten criticism from both Christians and non-Christians alike. If you haven't guessed already, this book is, of course, Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. I feel kind of bad about this because um, I was talking to someone in the comments about Francine Rivers' books, and of course Redeeming Love came up, and I was like, oh, I'm going to read that book soon. I didn't say it was because there are conflicting opinions on this one. So sorry to that person. So yeah, actually, the first time I heard about this book was actually in a negative light. So this person was saying that the main criticism was that this book caused her to have unrealistic expectations for a future relationship. Some people might be able to figure out who I'm talking about. um, so then there was that, and then of course when the movie came out a few years ago, there was controversy with that. Um, and then, but then someone else I follow read this book, and first when I heard that she was going to be reading it, I was like, "Mm." But then she loved this book, and she also addressed the criticism, and I think that is when I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna read this for myself to see what what's up with this book. So yeah, and then since then I've also heard some Christian booktubers saying that this was the book that won them over and thinking that Christian fiction can be good. So yeah, so I have read one other Francine Rivers book, that being in The Atonement Child, which I've talked about a few times. So I know that like she's a good writer, but we gotta find out about the content in this book. So what I'm gonna try to figure out about this book, because another criticism that a lot of people have was that this book is kind of inappropriate. Um, so like because I guess it like alludes to some things. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. And then another thing. This is kind of more from like I guess the non-Christians who like respond. There's accusations that the main guy grapes the main girl. Now, the person that I mentioned who loved this book said in whenever when it's talking about this book, I don't know why people keep saying that, but one thing that I took note of when these women are saying this, I mean, I don't know if it's all women, but it probably is, um, who's saying that they say forced sex is rape. So that has me thinking, does he then force her to do it in a way that's not physical? And if that is the case, what does that mean for all the women who love this book? So, yeah, we're gonna find out. yeah, let's get into it. I already said that, but
as the magnet fields of sun come to earth, may your blood come touch me. May your blood come touch me as the residue of the great solar storm. May you wrap around me. May you wrap around me. Come and dance with me, my northern light.
I made it to chapter 3, page 57. I don't... The prologue was longer than I expected. But the chapters have been short. Some turns have been appropriate so far. There hasn't really been any scenes, I don't think. I don't know. It's been a couple days. Made it to chapter 8. So, really, I don't think I said this well, but, I thought it said somewhere that, like, Angel is, like, 18? But if you do the math from how old she was in prologue to the year it was now, then she'd be 22. So, there's that. Also, how do so far, I'm not sure if I like Michael Hosea. So, yeah, I can see why some might not like Michael Hosea, although, yeah, I'm not sure. It felt weird because I don't know who, well, I know who it would be, but it seems like it's not that many, and I don't think he's done anything that bad yet, but I can see with the situation at the time, yeah, it doesn't look that good for him. So, and I don't really like, it seems like I haven't liked in the past, like, perfect love interests, like with Heartless by Elizabeth Stengel, but that's a topic for another time. So, I've made it to page 143. I got to that spot yesterday, though I didn't really film any of my thoughts, and I didn't get as much reading done yesterday as I was hoping to. Right now, I'm just confused by Michael Hosea, because, like, sometimes he, like, says and does nice things, but then, one thing I'm confused about is that in the part that I read last night, it said that his dad taught that he should, like, dominate women, and it's kind of implying that he's not going that way. But then a chapter or two earlier, he said something, I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but he essentially was kind of saying, it's my way or the highway. So I'm like, oh, what's going on? So, yeah. Made it to page 180. I should have probably picked up the camera earlier. So in chapter 12, there was the first scene. Now, it wasn't like graphic, or there weren't even really a lot of details. Well, and there were few details, but it still made me uneasy. I don't. It's been about 5 days since I last filmed anything. I'm now at chapter 19, page 243. I was hoping to have finished this book by now, but obviously that hasn't happened. So, I'm hoping to finish this book this week. That'd be nice. Um, so yeah, I just wanted, but before I read today, I wanted to talk about something. This is on page 228. Um, Michael is talking to Angel about women in the Bible that are somewhat like her, and it's just interesting. So we have the women mentioned are Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. So of course they mentioned that Rahab was a prostitute, so I mean, yeah, that tracks. But then Ruth slept at the feet of a man she wasn't married to. Yes, but she was never condemned for that or anything. So was that wrong? I don't really know what that's about. And then Bathsheba was an adulteress, which, I mean, I don't really know, but like some people have different views on that. Like some people think like, oh, she was essayed, or she was at the very least coerced, or like something. So there's that. And then last one, this one is a little. Mary became pregnant by someone other than the man she was betrothed to marry. Like, I mean, technically yes, but she wasn't pregnant by any other man. She was pregnant by the Holy Spirit. So framing it in that way, I don't like that. So, yeah, we'll see how the rest of this book goes. Right, it's the next day, and I finished this book. So I'm just gonna try to think through some of my thoughts, and then I'll probably film my review in a few days. So, alright, it's been 2 days since I finished Redeeming Love, so I have a bit more of my thoughts gathered, and I'm gonna address a bit more than what I said in my opening thoughts. So again, the first time I heard about this book is in a negative light, saying with all these things, but that person um originally read this book as a teenager. So then the question is, should teenagers even be reading it? Now, would it be better for teenagers to read this than the popular book talk smutty books? Yes. But does that mean this is a good book for teenagers to read? Not necessarily. So let's address the unrealistic expectations thing that this person brought up. So it's so the unrealistic expectations thing that might not have been Francine Rivers' intent. I read one review of this book, and it was said that apparently women would come up to Francine Rivers and say, "I want a man like Michael Hosea," and apparently she would tell them, "Jesus is that man." But I tried to find evidence of that, and I couldn't find anything, though maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough. Though I did find a few, I guess, blog posts from Francine Rivers' own website, and in one she did say that Jesus is the ultimate Michael Hosea, and in a different blog post she'd said that the reason she chose the name Michael is because Michael means who is like God. But she also said at the beginning of the one where she said Jesus is the ultimate Michael Hosea, she also said at the beginning that her husband became a Michael Hosea. So I don't really know about that. And the thing is with me is, no, I don't really have, like, I guess what they're called, like, book boyfriends. Like, my brain just, it doesn't work like that. Um, but even with that said, I just don't like perfect love interests. Um, and I say perfect because, in air quotes, because the thing about those love interests is oftentimes they do say or do things that are wrong or problematic. It's just that those things aren't called out by the story. So, for example, the book that I mentioned earlier in this vlog, Heartless by Anne Elizabeth Stengel, Applebald, I'm just gonna call him that because I don't know how to pronounce his actual name, um, he's like presented as perfect, but he's like pursuing this 18-year-old princess when he's like an immortal being. Now, it's never said exactly how old he is, but there was one line I remember that implied that he's been around for hundreds of years. So, yeah. And then for a more popular and current example, you have Rhysand from ACOTAR. Now, to make this clear, I have not read the books, and I don't plan to read the books because of how smutty they're known to be. So this is what I'm about to say. This is just going off of what I've heard from people. So yeah, he's apparently presented as perfect, but um, I've heard that he like puts the main girl in this tight dress and tells her to dance for him. And then I even heard from one person that at one point she like throws up and then he tells her to keep going. That right there, that's bad enough. But then another thing I've heard, now I've only heard this from one person, and I'm not even sure that person has read the books, and I haven't heard anyone else talk about this, so it might not be in. But I've heard that he like breaks her arm, or like her arm was already broken, and he hurt it even more. Which, mm, why are you girlies going crazy for this dude? Like, um, so yeah, there's that. So, and even with this, there's a few things which people will talk about. One of those things later that Michael does. It's like, but here's the thing, is that, at least from what I got of this, Michael is actually not presented as perfect. There are a few lines where he says, "Oh, I'm human. Oh, my flesh wants to do this," and like all these things. Um, and again, maybe that's not supposed to be him portrayed as flawed, but that um that right there, the fact that he kind of says that he's not perfect. I think that it would make sense why teenage girls would have unrealistic expectations of that, even if that wasn't Francine Rivers' intent. Right, and then there's the intimate scenes. Yeah. So the scenes, um, I mean, usually I skim over that kind of parts. I didn't with this, and it's, to be fair, it's not like detailed. I mean, I guess the only detail was that saying that they fit together, which I know that was probably intended to show the beauty of it, but it's kind of um. So there's that. So again, like it's not detailed, but it still made me feel kind of uneasy. But maybe that's just because I knew what they were doing. So yeah, and so should teenagers read that? I mean, when I was a teenager, there was a book with a few scenes that was kind of, I'd say, on par with this. And I mean, yeah, I did have some like struggles in that area, but I don't think it was because of that book. So there's that. I guess it just kind of depends on. So I guess it just kind of depends. Yeah. Um. And then there's stuff about grape. And to be warned, from this point on forward, um, I don't know if I'm gonna put a timestamp or something. There might be slight spoilers, so you just be warned for that. Um, so uh, so I read this book, and I thought that they were saying that the people were saying that Michael raped Angel. And after reading this book, I was like, where are you getting that from? But then I looked at one of the reviews where it said forced sex is grape, and I realized that, and looking closer at that view, that that person wasn't talking about Michael. The person was talking about Paul. In which case, yeah, that's fair to say that that is um non-consensual. Like, well, I guess forced. So yeah, that'd be that'd be fair. All right. So yeah, I guess to be fair, that what Paul did certainly wasn't great. But then so they also said in the review that they were mad that Angel felt like she had to repent for that, or however it was. Although for me, I don't think that was Francine Rivers trying to say that Angel had done something wrong. I think it was more that just this woman has blamed herself for everything bad in her life since she was 7 years old. So, yeah, I think that's more case. And you would know if you read the whole book that at the end of the book, Paul does take responsibility for what he did. So, yeah. And then there's also people are also saying that it was forced marriage. That's the only thing with like Michael, which I mean, yeah, she was like unconscious. I remember reading that and thinking, ooh, this is a little sketched out. This isn't a good look, Michael. So yeah, there's that. And then also another thing I saw in one of these reviews, and actually that's how I found out that they were talking about Paul, was when I was looking back to the reviews to try to find how this other review also complained that like, oh, Angel just wants to please Michael and give him a son and like all those things, which I didn't know. I think I first read that a while ago, and then I went back to this again, and knowing the whole context of the books, it's like, ma'am, Angel is basically struggling with infertility. Like, would you say that about someone you know who's struggling with infertility nowadays? Like, um, so, and I know, like, culture demonizes, like, having kids and stuff, but even despite that, lots of women still want to have kids, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? So, yeah, in conclusion, I'm not sure what to rate this book because I can see why people like it, but I can also see why people don't like it, and I'm not sure which side I fall under. So, there's that. Now, oh, this next book. So, moving on to the next book we're reading for this video. So this book, I wouldn't say there's like a big controversy over it, but just of all the things I've heard about this, I need to know what's up with this book. And that book is Everybody Sees the Ants by A.S. King. Never heard of it? Well, let me tell you how I heard of it. from a viral video of a mom at a school board meeting. Yes, this is one of those books. So the story goes, and there's gonna be a lot of context for this, so just buckle up for that. So the mom had a daughter in 8th grade, and she gotten her point in English where they were doing this like book club unit. So when they got to choose a book, and they were put in a group with um, those other kids, and they would do assignments and like a book club but for school. I actually had a similar kind of unit in both grade 7 and grade 8, but though it wasn't called a book club. I think in grade 7 it was called lit circles, and I can't remember what it was called in grade 8. So anyways, back to it. So the book that this woman's daughter picked was apparently fine, but this daughter was like talking with her friend, and her friend was concerned that her book had a lot of F words in it. And so this daughter told her mom about her friend's book and stuff, and her mom decided to look into all these books, and she was shocked by what she found. So, and this book in particular was part of it was read at this school board meeting because it includes a graphic gang grape scene. And if that wasn't bad enough, this mom also went on Ellie Beth Stuckey's podcast and talked a bit more about this book, and we will roll that clip right now.
The worst one was Everybody Sees the Ants, and I pretty much read the whole book that night because the very first chapter is all about suicide. It's a young boy, and he has a prompt at school he gets to choose a prompt for school writing assignment, and it says, if you were to commit suicide, how would you do it? And it is probably, that book probably has, I don't know, I don't want to exaggerate, at least 30 ways to commit suicide, different ideas.
Oh my gosh.
And it was shocking to me.
So that sounds pretty bad. But then, like years kind of after that, I was looking into putting my TBR together for when I'd start this channel, and I can't remember why I found this, but I found, oh, well, I, I was looking up one book, and I found a trigger warning database for all these books, and I kind of thought, I wonder what the trigger warnings would be for this book, kind of thinking, oh, like maybe for like the permission slips they could have listed the trigger warnings. So I found the trigger warnings for this book, and it does not say graphic gang rape, though it does say physical assault and graphic bullying, whatever the heck that means. So I thought, oh, okay, that's So then I decided to look on Goodreads to see what people who've read this book have to say about it, and I read a good amount of reviews. And the reviews I saw, for one, none of the reviews I saw even mentioned the gang rape scene. So there's that. But then also from that clip where this book talks about um, an aliving, you would think that this book does not have a good message about that. But then the reviews I saw that mentioned that, even some of them, even at least one of the negative ones, said that they liked the message about that. So I thought, that's interesting. What message could this book possibly have about unaliving? So then when I thought, that does it, I'm reading this book and I'm gonna see for myself what this is about. I fear I might regret this. Um, I'm getting reminded of the, this is probably the same curiosity that caused Harmony to read Bunny.
I don't know. I just need to know what this book is about. That's getting people all worked up about it.
And this also reminds me of Faith from Faith's Reading Things when she tried to read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and ended up DNFing it. Now, I don't want to have to DNF this book because I really want to know what's up and what's the author's trying to say. But if it's as bad as people are saying, I fear I may have to. And then I don't know what. Then this whole section of the video will be for nothing. Yeah. So yeah, so the goal of reading this book is to try to figure out what the author is actually trying to say. So is that, and also from what I did see from the research I did do, um there was one thing that it seems this mom got wrong about this book. She was talking in the viral video, and like as if the characters were in middle school, and it's, I think it said in the synopsis on Goodreads that the main character is 15. So I think the characters are actually supposed to be in high school. So there was that wrong. So I don't. I I'm scared, but I guess it's now or never.
Alright, I made it to chapter 3. It's not that bad so far. I mean, oh, okay, there are definitely some questionable things being said and stuff, and certainly not appropriate for 8th graders, but I don't know, it's not as traumatizing as I thought it was gonna be. I mean, of course, we didn't get to that scene yet, but I don't know. I made it to chapter 6, and I've already gone past the king rape scene. At first I thought about like why none of the reviews I saw talked about it, and I was like, oh, maybe it's a spoiler. But nah, it's literally in chapter 5. So, I mean, I guess, like, and it was, but I guess, I don't know, like, it was pretty easy for me to skip, like, because, like, it's short. So, so, I mean, but, like, so, like, it's short, so maybe that's why it wasn't much. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Alright, it's the next day, and I finished it. Again, it's probably gonna take a few days for me to gather all my thoughts. So,
Alright. It has been a few days since I finished reading Everybody Sees the Ants. It's been a little, it's taken a bit to kind of organize my thoughts on this book, and like with Redeeming Love, I will address more in this review than what I initially said in my introduction. So, is this book appropriate for 8th graders? No. I didn't think I was going to come away from reading this book thinking any differently. And even though the main character is 15, I would also probably caution against those under 18 reading it because of things. But does this book need to be, do we need to throw it in the trash and say that like nobody should ever read it? I don't know about that either. So yeah, there are definitely some things in this book that I wish weren't in this book. I mean, of course, there's the graphic passage that I skipped over, but there's also quite a bit of swearing. There were some comments in here that's like, this need to be in here, and also a little bit of like woke elements. There was actually one woke thing that I was very surprised within this book, but I don't think I can say what that is because that might be a spoiler. And there's also some portrayal of Christianity, but not really in a positive way. Although, to be fair, it wasn't as condemning of it as it could have been. So, but still, not that great. And with that, like graphic scene, although I skipped it, if I hadn't known some of the words, um, that like started and stuff, I wouldn't have known to skip that part. So while I skipped it, I don't know if I'd say it's skippable. So there's that. And this was a really weird place to put this in my notes, but I feel like I should give a synopsis of this book. I felt like that I didn't do that for Redeeming Love, and I felt like that wasn't necessary since because of how famous it is. Most people don't know what it's about, but this book is lesser known. So this book follows 15-year-old Lucky Linderman, and he has this project about like a gathering data project, and he decides to do it on how the different kids would unalive themselves. So, and he gets in trouble for this and has some of the adults, like the school people, teachers and stuff, concerned for him. And while he says that it was a joke and he insists that he's fine, we find out that he's not actually fine. His dad is kind of distant from their family, and that seems to be because his own dad never came back from the war. And then Lucky is also being heavily bullied by this other kid, Nader, and when he's told adults about it, they haven't been helpful to him. Um, and so Lucky has been kind of coping with this by distancing and almost disassociating himself from what has happened to him. And he also has this escape where he has these dreams that he's going to this jungle where he sees his grandfather who's supposedly died in war. And it's people say his parents say, oh, like, oh, it was just a dream, but it seems that they're not really dreams because some of the objects from the dreams he finds in his hand when he wakes up. um and so after an incident with Nader, his mom takes him to Arizona to visit some family, and while he's there, he bonds with his uncle and meets this girl, and he learns some lessons, and yeah. So back to that, back referencing back to that podcast episode where this mom was talking about this book. She was saying, "Oh, this book has all these different ways to unalive yourself." But the way she was talking, she made it sound as if this book is promoting that. Which, I mean, feel free to disagree if you've read this book, but I don't think it is. Um, and like from the way she was talking about it, it sounded like I thought going into this book that it was going to be talking about all these different ways and then like how to do them and stuff, but that's not what it is. It's not what it is at all. It's more of just like these ways are kind of just mentioned in passing, like, oh, this person would do this, like, you know. um so yeah, and I wouldn't even say this book is even about unaliving. um like it seems like it's hard to sum up exactly what this book is about. I think I read a bit of the author's note at the end, and it seems like the story was kind of inspired by, I guess, the war and stuff like that. But I think there's more heavy themes there about like bullying and like all these different things. I do think that this book has some interesting things to say, even though it's kind of confusing in what it seems to be saying. So there is that. Um, so one thing I found looking back, so I remember when I first watched that like viral video, um, reading from this book, I was 17. And I was like disturbed by what I heard, but not too disturbed to where it ruined my night and the day after, which did happen for something else I heard about, from books in these kinds of books. Um, but yeah, I was still disturbed, and I remember, of course, I was like more openly like commenting things about it, and I was trying to find some comment that I was gonna discuss here, but I ended up finding a different comment where I was responding to someone who was saying that, oh, I've heard worse on like the school on the playground and stuff, and I responded with this like long paragraph and talking about the book and uh, saying, oh, this book is worse than in this clip, and I know this because I listened to this podcast. And I remember I called this book filth, which is interesting because I don't even think I regularly use that word in my vocabulary. And and I obviously hadn't read it yet. And um, well, yes, there is some, I guess, filth in it. I don't know if I'd say now that it's all bad. And this kind of, in talking about that, just made me realize that I think as like maybe content creators and like people, I think we should be careful about commenting on books, movies, TV shows, whatever, that we haven't actually seen. Um, and this also, which, I mean, I'm leading through the comment, I think I might still, I don't know, like, I wasn't completely wrong, but like, I don't know, it was just interesting. And also, tying back to Ellie Beth Stuckey, she of course had that mom on, but then I remember in some of the podcasts after that, she talked about this book to another guest and like, oh, this book has all these ways to unalive yourself and all these things, and I don't know what I thought of that at the time, but I remember now I'm especially like, girl, you haven't even read the book. You just talked to someone who has. And I feel like even if we are going to avoid um certain books or whatever to like protect our own peace or whatever, but we still feel the need to comment on them, we should at least say that what we're commenting on we've heard from other people um and not something that we've seen with our own eyes. So yeah, that was just to say. So in conclusion for this book, uh, it's hard to see. So I wouldn't recommend this book, or like recommend like make sure you know what you're getting into. But like I wouldn't recommend it, but I don't completely regret reading it. So there's that. Okay, so now this challenge is over. I remember kind of like looking ahead at my TBR and kind of dreading doing this video, particularly dreading reading Everybody Sees the Ants. Um, so I kind of dreaded doing this, but of course, as you can see, it ended up turning out not as bad as I feared. Um, so would I recommend this challenge to like other YouTubers or whatever? I guess it depends. Like like are you prepared for what you might get into or what people might say depending on how big your platform is to reading these books? Like just you should like weigh the risks and stuff. And obviously hardly anyone watches my channel. So yeah, there's that. And with these books that I've talked about, I haven't rated them and I probably won't talk about them much else on my channel. Um but so yeah, there's this. So thank you for watching and goodbye.